Welcome to the program. I'm Okpeyemi Owosheni. The Nigerian government says it will lend power generation and transmission from Egypt, which it described as a role model in the sector. The government has also reaffirmed its commitment to rural development through improved electricity access. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, disclosed this during a recent meeting in Abuja with the Egyptian ambassador to Nigeria, Mohammed Fuad. A statement by Adelabu spokesperson Bolaji Tunji said the meeting centered on strengthening bilateral cooperation in energy expansion with a focus on renewable energy and rural electrification. The Nigerian government has revealed that Nigeria requires an annual investment of $6.25 billion to address the country's housing deficit, estimated at over 28 million units. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Dangiwa, disclosed this recently at the Renewed Hope Housing Public-Private Partnership Summit held in Abuja. Dangiwa emphasized that despite numerous housing policies and strategy papers, inconsistent implementation, lack of political will, and poor coordination have hindered progress in the sector. The minister highlighted that to bridge the housing gap and meet the rising demand in the country, Nigeria must deliver 500,000 housing units annually over the next decade. We'll go on a break now and be back with company news. The Nigerian Exchange Limited has announced the lifting of the trading suspension on the shares of Mutual Benefit Assurance PLC that's effective from Thursday, March 20th, 2025. This development enables shareholders to resume trading the company's shares on the NGX platform. The company was suspended on July 8, 2024 for failing to file its financial accounts within the stipulated time frame in accordance with 3.1 of the NGX rules for filing of accounts and treatment of default filings. The Board of Unity Bank PLC has announced the appointment of Ebenezer Kolawole as the Acting Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer. Now, this follows the retirement of Oluwatomi Shomefun, who has completed her tenure as the MD and CEO. The announcement was made during the bank's 18th annual general meeting held in Lagos. Now, according to the bank, the appointment has received the necessary approval from the Central Bank of Nigeria, the bank's primary regulator. We'll go on a break now, but when we return, we'll be discussing the Naira for crude deal between Dangote Refinery and NNPCL. I'll bring you details after this break. The price of petrol in Nigeria may increase again following the suspension of sales of petroleum products in Naira, as the Naira for crude talks between the Dangote Refinery and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) appears to have failed. Oil marketers have now declared that they would seek alternatives following the suspension of the sale of petroleum products in Naira by the Dangote Refinery. Now, this decision implies that marketers of petroleum products who want to buy the product from the Dangote Refinery will now begin to pay in dollars, which consequently leads to an increase in the pump price of the product across the country. According to reports, the Naira for Crude committee held last week met at the Ministry of Finance headquarters in Abuja to assess development and reaffirm commitment to the policy framework. Now, let's discuss the implication of this for the oil and gas sector. Oil and gas expert Abubakar Ibrahim now joins me on the program. Thank you for your time, Mr. Ibrahim. Now, how will Dangote's refinery's decision to halt Naira-denominated sales and shift to the United States dollars affect fuel prices in Nigeria, especially in terms of short-term and long-term stability?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. So going into your question, it's a no-brainer because the fuel prices are expected to go up because of this development. As a matter of fact, we're already seeing rises in the price of petrol at the depot now, because when this statement was released, I think until thereabout, hours later, the price of petrol at the depot, increases. It's increased by over 15 naira. So this is to tell you that before the end of this week, going into next week, we should be getting this same impact on the price of petrol across the country at the pump. Many Nigerians will probably, be buying more, buying at a higher rate compared to what it is currently going into the new week. And so this in the short term, it will affect the people, the ways it affected Nigerians back then when the president announced the removal of fuel subsidy, where we saw a jump when petrol moved from somewhere around 400 to 600 and to 800 and to 1,000. So now, currently sitting somewhere around 860, 855. So we should be expecting the price of petrol to go up to at least 900 going to the new week before this time next week. So this is some of the impacts it will have on a short term. But in the long run, I feel if you look at it, we have to adapt, obviously. Then we have to come to terms that is the reality of things, except something changes between now and then. So before then, or as it is right now, Nigerians could be expected to see increments in the price of petrol at the pump across the country.
Now, given the prolonged ongoing price war between Dangote Refinery and the NNPCL, how effective do you think government recent policies like the Naira-denominated crude sales agreement is addressing the country's energy challenges and stabilizing fuel prices?
Well, the price war for me, I'd say it's a good thing. It's a deregulated market, so we are supposed to see the process of buying and supply, buying and selling, and demand and supply. So NNPC being the arm of government, if you want to look at it from that angle, then we have other marketers, we have the major marketers, we have the independent marketers. So the PIA in itself created some sort of a table where it allows everyone to come there if you have what it takes to come into the sector, especially the downstream sector of the petroleum industry. Then you come in, you do what is needed to be done. You can participate, you can compete. Before then, it used to be just NNPC, but now everybody with resources can come in and get it done. So if you look at the policy or the framework that was done between NNPC and Dangote Refinery, and also, I said, local refiners, not just Dangote Refinery, so the supply of crude oil in Naira, it's impacted positively on the Nigerian market and also the Nigerian economy. For example, we could see the movement of petrol from over 1,000 Naira to 855, 860, just from January to date. Then we also saw the drop in terms of exchange rates from 1,700 to 1,560. If you get so, these are some of the things. Even the rate of inflation dropped in the recent time. If you look at the latest data from the NBS, so this policy, the framework in itself, the program impacted on the Nigerian economy positively. However, with the current developments, we should be expecting some of these things to change, because obviously we are a petrol-run economy, meaning that an average Nigerian uses petrol even more than diesel. The consumption of petrol is higher than diesel in Nigeria. So you see buyers and sellers getting into buying petrol at a higher cost, passing the cost now to their consumers and all of that. So these are some of the things that we're expected to see in the nearest future, weighing on this current development. So the Naira-denominated crude sales agreements impacted positively some of our challenges, especially when it comes to FS, was sorted out, literally.
Now, we've seen Dangote Refinery increasing its production capacity. Now, with Dangote Refinery doing all of this, what exactly do you think will be its impact on local supply? And what exactly also do you foresee as the long-term effect on Nigeria's reliance on imported refined products and fuel pricing?
Well, for one, thank you for having me. if you look at the question you just asked, Nigerians are expected to feel the brunt. An average Nigerian on the street is expected to feel the brunt, and also organization businesses, because then you have to pass the cost across to the people. Because now we should be expecting some sort of increment in the price of petrol at the pump. Let me give you a scenario. When the announcement was made by Dangote because of this week, less than 12 hours later, the price of petrol at the depot increased by over 15 naira. Before the announcement, it was somewhere around 835, 840. After the announcement, it got as high as 900. My last check today was somewhere around 875, meaning that it's still on the higher side. So from the depot to the pump, obviously, we should be seeing petrol go back to around 900, 950. It only sits in Lagos, you could get a petrol per liter for 855, 860. And this time next week, we should be expecting around 900, 950. Because these are some of the short-term effects that we have on the economy and on the people. The agreement was slated for 6 months, starting October last year down to this month. So I think there was some sort of breakdown in agreement to further what is currently going on between the NNPC and Dangote refinery, or the NNPC and local refiners, because it's not just to run Dangote refinery as it's well. So, but on the long run, I expect people to come to term that this is our reality and see if the stakeholders can come together and find a way to rectify this issue. But because it's actually helped to wait, because if you look at it, subsidy removal, petrol jumping by over 100% to 1,000 naira plus, they are coming down to like 860. Nigerians out there could tell you that, okay, there were some sort of positive impact with the deal. And now that the team should be expecting things back to as it were when the president announced the removal of subsidy.
Now, finally, just before I let you go, Mr. Ibrahim, what impact do you think this would have on the forex market, given dollar demand may now rise?
Well, we expect things to be the way it were before the announcement of the PIA, and that is that many marketers would be expected to look to the NNPC for importation of refined products. Because before the commencement of the Dangote refinery, it used to be that marketers, either major marketers, independent marketers, they all go to the NNPC because of FS pressure. Most of these people do not have what it takes to import. So what they do is they come together, reach out to the NNPC. Obviously they have the fund, that's the NNPC have the fund. So the NNPC, bring in the products, distribute it to the marketers as expected. And these are some of the things that we'll probably be seeing even now with the commencement of Dangote refinery. However, we should expect marketers also to go to Dangote refinery for those that feel like it's easier to get it there than to bring it in. Then the depot, the S-gantry price will obviously change. That is, Dangote petrol, the price will have to increase to meet the economic reality of today or the future, as the case may be. So this will have, should I say, negative impact on the FX demand, because then we have a lot of pressure on it, and when we do, what that translates to. You have a dollar going to as high as 700. Currently, I think it's somewhere around 1,500 naira, 1,560. So it could be something between 1,600 and 1,700 in the very near future. So these are some of the things that we'll be expected to see, because then everybody is dealing with dollar. So the demand for it will obviously spike. And then we'll go back to where the situation we found ourselves some months back before this deal was signed. So I believe the forex markets will be a tough period in coming days.
Well, oil and gas expert Abubakar Ibrahim, many thanks for lending your thoughts on the program. We'll take a short break now and be back in a moment. Welcome back. Let's now speak to an economist about what the suspension means for Nigeria's economy. Economist Femi Oladele now joins me on the program. Thank you for your time, Mr. Oladele. Now, how do you expect Dangote refinery shift from Naira to US dollars, its transactions to affect inflation and the overall cost of living in Nigeria, particularly given the current country's dependency on petroleum products?
Thank you so much for that question, but I think we should go back to the fact that this is in response also to the federal government saying, oh, we're not going to give you crude in Naira anymore. So his decision is in response to the government's decision also. So I believe that at this time, since we are seeing a very stable, I'm not saying that it is not high, but at least it has been stable for a while. So I don't think it would significantly impact the foreign exchange at this time. And the reason I'm saying that is because I think the government is also doing this because they feel that they have some obligations that are denominated in dollars, which they want to meet, and maybe they are short. And so they feel that, okay, let's use our crude to show up that provision. So I don't think that in the immediate term that Dangote's decision would impact inflation significantly. Also, I think that given that food production has increased a bit, also oil production has increased a bit, and other things that we're seeing going around, there are still very many indices that are not going the way they should go. I must say that the cost of data, cost of electricity, and all of those are still very high. But I don't think that this sudden change or this recent change would significantly impact inflation. It might lead to a marginal increase in the retail price of petrol, but I'm not certain that it's going to significantly increase or impact inflation figures at this time.
Now, what will you say are the broader implications of Dangote Refinery's decision on the Naira's exchange rate and Nigeria's overall economic stability, especially considering the country's current challenges with currency depreciation?
Okay, so I mentioned, I'll start again. So you recall that the Naira for crude was just for 6 months. And so that 6 months ends in the month of March, which is this month that we are in already. So it's not like the government is doing something wrong in the first instance because it was promised that it's going to run for 6 months, and that 6 months has ended already. But looking at the implications for our foreign exchange, like I said, I am not certain that this would significantly impact foreign exchange figures at this time. In maybe another 2-3 months when it continues then, and we see fluctuations in production as well as fluctuations in foreign exchange generally, then we might begin to feel the impact more significantly. But at this time, I'm not sure that that's going to happen. While that is said, I have to say that Nigerians are perceptive about everything. So a little change in figures can lead to significant changes in prices. So you begin to say, oh, dollar T1, and before you know it, people begin to raise their prices. So that is also something that we should look at. And that's not necessarily true inflation. It's just people assuming that since Dangote is no longer selling in Naira, it means that petrol prices would increase, even if it does not significantly increase. And so we should expect that in the coming months or coming weeks even. But generally, I don't think that it's going to significantly impact inflation figures. And I also don't think that it's going to shift our economic stance at this time, because there are other things that are in that bucket that are affecting they're affecting the economic indices. It's not just petrol. There are other things. I know that petrol significantly impacts transportation, infrastructure, and other things, but there are other indices also, the other factors that are affected. And so I don't see it significantly shifting the goalpost at this time.
Now, the Nigerian government has been pushing for Naira-denominated crude oil sales with local refineries. How exactly do you think this will effectively reduce Nigeria's reliance on the US dollar in the energy sector?
Oh, the US dollar is a global currency. No matter what we do at this time, I'm not sure that Nigeria has the backbone to now say, oh, we can no longer, or we will no longer rely on the dollar. Not at this time. I don't see that happening, except there's a significant global shift. the US dollars has become a currency of some sorts that even not just Nigeria rely on for different things. But I would say that with respect to the 6 months that the crude oil was sold at Naira to people, to refiners, I believe that it significantly rather impacted the price. Currently, the retail price is between 860 to 890, which makes sense. But if we look at it in that sense, then we can say that things are going well. We would begin to assess the impact from next month, where we know that the prices have moved from Naira to dollar back. And then we can then make some assumptions and say, okay, these things are not the way they should be. But at this time, I don't think that's significant.
Now, what impact do you think this current development in the oil and gas sector, especially with the refineries' dollar-based transactions, have on Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves and the overall energy sector in the medium to long term?
Long term, I am hoping that the Nigerian government will retest or repilot the Naira sale, because I believe that that is what we need at this time, since we have a significant local refiner that can take away most of our products and refine it and even meet our Nigerian need and even export. So I'm hoping that this would continue. I also believe that significantly there should be a strong push from the Association of Refiners in Nigeria. I don't know what their name is, but I know that they will definitely have an association, and that association should significantly push that the Nigerian government should go back to the Naira sale. I believe that that has impacted the retail price of petrol and definitely trickles down to every part of the economy with respect to power, transport, and infrastructure. So I assume that they should be pushing back on that so that that can be effected again. And that affects everybody, even small businesses that I like to talk about and support. And so I'm looking forward to a repilot or even an extensive or maybe a concession for Nigerian refineries where we would go back to the Naira sale. I believe that it's significant for our economy, and it also guarantees that we don't rely on what we don't have. We have Naira and we can use it. And so I believe that we should focus on using what we have to get what we want.
Well, economist Femi Oladele, many thanks for lending your thoughts on the program. Well, that's it on this episode of the program. Many thanks for watching. I'm Okpeyemi Owoshini. See you next time.